Hello everyone, welcome back to another lesson. Today we're going to be entering in our JavaScript section of this course. Now, what is JavaScript and how does it relate to HTML and CSS? Now, some people may not think HTML and CSS is actually like a tough programming language because it's pretty simple to understand. As you can see, HTML and CSS is knowing how to select tags and knowing how to use selectors and declarations. It's not that hard to learn. Now, JavaScript, on the other hand, is a full-fledged programming language. It's going to be quite difficult for us to learn everything. Now, I'm going to try to teach you every key element in JavaScript you're going to need to know. Now, as I said before, JavaScript is a full-fledged programming language, and it's basically what's called a scripting language. Now, JavaScript programs can be embedded into web pages, and it allows web pages to become dynamic, which means that they can become interactive. Now, ways we can make web pages interactive is through methods like performing calculations, responding to different users' actions, and actually receiving input from the user, as well as modifying the behavior based on circumstances. Also, we're going to be able to allow repeat tasks and outputs, and we're also going to be able to communicate with different servers. Now, one more thing, JavaScript is not the same thing as Java. Those languages are different from each other. They're two complete opposite languages, and they have nothing related. So let's go ahead and learn on about what JavaScript is, just as an introduction. So we're going to learn about where does JavaScript code go. Now, there's three ways we can put JavaScript in our website. Now, the first method is through an attribute of a particular element. For example, we can assign a tag, an attribute of onClick, meaning that when we click this, it's going to run a particular function. Now, the second way we can implement this, and the way we're going to implement it for this entire course, is by itself inside the HTML document. This is going to become really easy for us, and all we have to do to implement JavaScript code is basically add a script tag. Now, anything in this script will run a JavaScript code. And then lastly, we can also put this in a separate file, just like the way we did it with CSS. It's going to be trickier to put JavaScript in a separate file, so for the sake of this course, we're just going to put it by itself inside the HTML file. But if we were going to put it in a separate file, this is this tag that we're going to have to use inside our head section, which is basically like a link tag, except we're going to be linking the script tag to our HTML. So moving on, who does what? So in the browser, there's two things. There's the HTML parser, and then there's the JavaScript interpreter, and they both take turns doing their own functions. For example, the HTML parser will read the HTML that you've wrote down, and it renders it. So if you wrote a paragraph tag, it's going to render a paragraph. Now, when it sees that there's a function that needs to run, or a program that it needs to run that's by JavaScript, the JavaScript interpreter is going to wake up and it's going to execute that JavaScript statement one by one from top to bottom. Now, these two will interact together both at the same time, taking turns. For example, sometimes we need to render a paragraph first and have it do a function, and then have the HTML render something as well again. So let's keep on moving on. So JavaScript is a program that's based on a series of statements. Now, statements are individual instructions that you're telling the computer what to do. So basically, if we wanted to tell the web page to, hey, let's get some information from the user. So we're going to ask them how old they are. Now, that would be a statement. So we would create a statement that would alert the user or prompt the user to enter their age. Now, statements in JavaScript are executed one by one from the top down. So let's keep on moving with this introduction. Now, in terms of punctuation, JavaScript programs are going to most likely end with semicolons. Now, JavaScript doesn't really require, but for good-looking code, we're going to always want to end with a semicolon just so that we have good-looking professional code. Now, we're also going to take advantage of spacing. So just like HTML, spacing doesn't really do anything in our code. Spacing will be ignored, and basically we can use spacing in our favor to make it more easy to read, and we're going to be using indenting and blank lines in order to make our code easier to read, and JavaScript ignores these, so it doesn't really affect us in any way. So we're going to go down here, we're going to learn how to make comments. So comments are really essential in cleaning up our code and making sure that we understand everything our code is, so that when we come back to our code, we're able to understand it. And if we're selling our code for some money, we want the person that's going to receive our code to understand what the hell this code is doing. So as you can see, we have two types of ways we can write comments. So we learned about HTML comments, we learned about CSS comments. Now we have another form of comments that we can do with JavaScript. So the first one is So the first type of comment is this one, where we can span multiple lines of code. Now all we have to do is put a slash with an asterisk, and then inside that we can put our comment, and then after we finish our comment, we just end that off with an asterisk and another slash. Now we can also do single line comments, which we couldn't do in HTML and CSS. Now a single line comment will only use two slashes, and we can only have a single line of comment there. So let's go ahead and open up an HTML5 document just to show how this will work. We'll call this JavaScript intro, and let's go ahead and open that HTML file up. Alright, so we're going to put our JavaScript inside our HTML. So the way we can implement this is through the script tag. So anything in the script tag will be run by the JavaScript interpreter. So we're going to go ahead and write the script tag. So it's going to be bracket, script, bracket. Now anything inside the script tag will be JavaScript programming. Now we can easily make a comment as we learned. So we're going to use a multiple line comment. For example, let's write some blank lines. So let's put a bunch of random things. So let's go ahead and make this span multiple lines. So let's go ahead over here and just type in random things. Now let's say we wanted to comment out this entire 2 lines over here, and we wanted to basically not have this part of the function and the program not to run, but we want to comment it out. So basically we're just going to go and do a slash with an asterisk, and after that we're going to tell it where to end its comment, and we're going to do asterisk and then slash, and that's it. We just commented out only this section. Now this section of the code will not run. So if we just want to describe what our code is doing, we're going to have our code still run, but we're going to identify what this code is doing. So after the code we wrote there, all we're going to do is we're going to put a slash asterisk, and we're going to write what our code is doing. For example, let's say prompts the user to put in their age. Now we're giving ourselves a little note in our code telling us that, hey, this function over here and this program over here is going to prompt the user to put in their age, and now we can exit that comment so that the second line of code doesn't get commented out as well. So we're going to end that off with an asterisk and a slash, and now our second piece of code over here, this is not actual code, this is like fake text, but if this were code, this would be running as well. Now since we're only doing a single line of comment, we can just take this out and we can use the other form of comments, which is through a double slash. So we're going to do double slash. As you can see, Komodo automatically interpret it as a comment, and now we can put our comment in here. So prompts user to put their age, and then we can end off that comment with another double slash, and there we go. Now we have a single line comment. So comments are really easy to do, and making sure that we effectively write our code out correctly, and as well as organizing our code and making it easier to read when we're coming back and looking at it. So that is the end of the introduction for JavaScript. JavaScript is going to be a pretty heavy programming language. I'm going to teach you all the key things you're going to need to know about JavaScript, and by the end of this course you'll be able to master JavaScript. So until then, see you guys in the next lesson.